I haven't shaved. Hello everybody, welcome back, and today I am working on another classic touring car. This really is a classic. This is an HPI Pro 3 from the very early 2000s. It's in great nick, really good nick. However, it may look cleanish, it's not there yet, cleanish at the moment. This is 2 days into the cleaning process. This thing was filthy when I got it. Utterly filthy. You know, people who've had RC cars stored up in the loft now will recognise all this sort of thing. It was grimy, it was dirty, it was dusty, it had hair and fluff stuck in between all the drive pins and in the drive shafts and everything. But you know what? One thing that I was pleased to find for such an old touring car is there wasn't too many Sorry, I really struggled to say There wasn't too many mismatched screws. So what am I doing with the Pro 3? Well, as some of you may know, I've been talking more recently about restarting our race club, our budget for fun race club with touring cars. It's competitive, but it's a good laugh. And the budget's down, the costs are down. My cousin Andy wants to join. My cousin Andy, you may recognise, more sort of veterans of the channel will recognise him. He showed up with his DJI Phantom video a couple of years ago. He also has done some of the music that I've used in the channel over the years, so he wants to join the club as well. This was my friend Callum's, but it's been neglected in the loft at my parents' house because he didn't really maintain it. I maintained it for him, and then I forgot about it, and everybody forgot about it. It's been sitting up there, and I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Dusty. Right, okay, so yes, I'm building this car up for my cousin Andy to join the race club. And there's quite a lot of work to do. Today, on this video, I'm just going to highlight what I'm going to do and where we're going to be at the end of it. We'll start with the equipment that came with it. Classic ACOMS radio gear, 27 MHz, there's the Techni Plus, and everybody knows how much I like the Techni Plus. Has anybody got a spare aerial? I don't have a spare aerial for it. The aerials I do have that are spare are all internally threaded, female threaded. This needs a male threaded aerial, so you know, if you've got one, let me know. And it comes with a corresponding 27 MHz receiver. I was thinking about changing the radio gear over. I'm not going to spend any more money. I've already spent almost 50 quid of my own money on parts, most of which haven't arrived yet. And obviously Andy's going to reimburse me, right? Right? So I don't want to spend any more money on radio gear, you know. It's fine. As long as there's no interference, there's only going to be about 6, 7, 8 of us, you know, at any one time. It's fine, no problem. You know, I've got a 2.4 GHz system now. Matthew's using 40 MHz system. I'm sure someone else is using 40 as well, I can't remember. So there's not going to be a problem with interference, so it's okay. That's absolutely fine, as long as we don't need steering dual rate to limit the servo throw. And that's something we need to work out later on. This is the Pink Demon motor. I used to have a sort of checkered flag sticker with a demon on it. Pink Demon. This is an early 2000s 27 turn stock motor. Very quick, very high RPM motor this. I know it looks horrible in bright pink, but it is quite a lethal motor. I could skim this. You're not supposed to be able to rebuild this. Rather than screws at the top, what you do is you have these tabs. There's these tabs that are bent inwards, and they're supposed to hold the end bell onto the motor, so you can't get at the commutator, or you can't remove the armature. I've done this before. I've actually bent these out and pulled it and skimmed it before. I don't know if I will. I don't think I will. You know, I've said before, I'm guilty of being way too sentimental in my life, and there's no point in hanging on to things. I can't see myself putting this motor into anything else again. Andy wants a nice, shiny new car. He doesn't know what he's getting. I know this is not new, it's 20 years old, but it's going to be immaculate. I don't really fancy giving this scabby old motor. Yeah, ow. We'll see. Besides, Matthew's going to donate an E-Tronics 27 turn motor. I was going to say stock motor, but it's got adjustable timing, so I don't know if it's classed as stock. But it probably won't be as good as this in terms of high RPMs, but it'll probably have more torque because this is a low torque, high RPM motor. It's brand new anyway, or basically brand new. He was using it in his boat, and he's used it 3 or 4 times at the most. So yeah, I'll go for that E-Tronics, I think. It also came with an M-Tronics Auto Sport Tuned 20 ESC. Now, here's something you need to understand. I used to swear by M-Tronics ESCs. I loved M-Tronics ESCs. I have an M-Tronics ESC, a limitless one that's like £100 or something in my Lossy XXS. I have another different £100 limitless M-Tronics upstairs. It used to be in the XXX4, but I don't have that car anymore and it's upstairs. I've used M-Tronics in almost all of my RCs. There's several of them still have M-Tronics in them. Really like M-Tronics stuff, really do. I've always swear by them. So I'm well qualified, and believe me when I tell you that the Auto Sport 20 is garbage. It's utter crap. I know nowadays it's very commonplace for, especially brushless systems, you plug in the speed controller or whatever and you switch it all on and it calibrates. You hear it going bleep, 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 or whatever it does, and it'll calibrate. That's normal nowadays. Back in the day you had to program them. This was one of the first that auto-programmed, and it's garbage. I had it in a lunchbox, and every time it wheelied, it would stop and calibrate again because of the voltage drop. It's okay in a touring car, but Callum was using it, and sometimes you plug it in and it would calibrate itself, and then throttle would be backwards. It's just rubbish, so we don't want that. I do have another M-Tronics, a proper M-Tronics, and I've got an HPI brushed ESC, and I also have an LRP brushed ESC. So I've got options. We'll do something else. It came with this horrible blue Kyosho spur gear. Taking that off, put a nice black HPI one on it. And oh, damage. Yes, so small damage here. See the end of that wishbone, the end of this arm it's got a wee thing on the end that snapped off. See, it's got a little enclosed bit. This sort of bar at the top, it's enclosed. It's missing off that one. This one has it, you see. Can you see it that way around? Yeah, it has it. I don't know if it's structural. I guess it is structural. Certainly not structural enough that it wouldn't run without it. It would be fine. I don't know if it's probably to stop flex. But hey, we've got one spare. Why not use it? The major damage is, I don't know if you'll see this, in there. The outdrive has looked like someone's detonated something in it. It's completely blown open. I've never seen that before, just in here. Completely blown open. You can try and turn that. You see the outdrive is all knackered? You probably can. It's horrible. So, unfortunately you can't order outdrives. You've got to order a whole graphite diff kit. So I've ordered a diff, it's not here yet. That's fine, that'll get it all sorted and the car will be mechanically perfect. One thing I'm going to do when I rebuild it, I'm going to rebuild the whole thing, is fit an entire new bearing kit. Of course I am. So they've actually arrived already. Great service as usual from rcbearings.co.uk, and Colin from RC Bearings, thank you very much, has thrown in some stickers for this rebuild. So we'll be putting the bearings in it. So what is it about the Pro 3? Well, it's highly unusual. No other touring car from the time or since has looked anything like this. Now, I'm not just talking about the funny shaped chassis. HPI tried and pioneered all the weight down the centre driveline. So they had the heavy things like the motor in the centre and then the batteries down the centre as well. They try and keep all the weight as low down and as central as possible. Lossy adopted that idea several years later. My JRXS Type R has the same sort of thing, although it also has the servo down the centre as well. And it's it's a far leap ahead of this. It's several years ahead in terms of development. But that was what they were trying with it. And it is just a strange looking chassis generally. You'll see here that I have the servo front to back is in the middle. It's not left to right in the middle, but it's front to back. It's basically in the middle of the car. The big long steering arm. Okay. Big bulkheads front and rear. Nothing like anything else I've seen. Strangely short. Can you see? No, I'll probably see at the back better. Strangely short drive shafts and CV joints. Really short. And it actually makes it look like it's got really short suspension arms, but actually it doesn't. The suspension arms are quite long. It's just that the mount and the hinge pins are quite close to the centre. They're very close to each other, so the arm comes all the way out. But it also has a funny shape of arm. Like they've got an upturn. Weird design. Strange design, strange looking car. Another thing that's odd are the hubs and hub carriers. See, weird. The hub's really tall, and then the camber links mount really high up on these hubs. Same with the front, is the hub carriers. Look, right really tall, and there's where the camber link attaches. Completely different to any other car where you would have the camber link. See, here's the top of the hub carrier there, as you would have the camber link screwed in from the top, but no, it's up here. Odd design, weird design car. Very unique looking. So, did it work? Well, sort of. Yeah, kind of. Not really. A little bit. Right, I'll explain. Pros and cons. Let's start with the pros. The design of this chassis, with all the weight down the centre, all the big weight, like the batteries and the motor down the centre and very low down, meant this car changes direction extremely quickly. It's probably got the fastest direction change of any chassis of that era. That's the fundamental design point that we're going for, is quick direction changes, and they did achieve that. Another benefit to that is, if you look at, for example, my Losis XXS, which is from the same sort of era, the battery down one side, you've got to balance entire battery against everything. You've got to balance it against the motor, the ESC, the receiver and the servo. So you've got to try and get the balance right. It's much easier to get the balance right with this, because all you're doing is balancing the servo against the ESC and the receiver. Everything else is central. Very easy to get chassis balance correct. Okay, on to the downsides. First of all, it's not really the car's fault. My Losis has the same problem. Batteries. It's very difficult to get batteries that fit. Nickel metal hydrides fit, most of them. Some of them are too big. Like, for example, this Reedy Wolfpack is way too big. It's bigger than a LiPo for some reason. But its Overlander does fit. For example, getting LiPos that fit is a completely different ball game. It isn't easy to get batteries that fit this car, but then that's just because of what era it's from. It's also just as difficult to get them to fit my XXS, so we can't hold that against this car. Another problem with the chassis, slop. There's loads of it in the steering and suspension components. Look at this. There's the rear hub, moving back and forth. It's all secured and tightened up, it just moves. Front's even worse. There's loads of it, loads of movement. You might be thinking, okay Mike, I mean, give it a break. It's a 20-year-old RC car. Of course it's going to have slop in the steering and the suspension components. Yeah, you may say that. There ain't no slop in that, I tell you that much. You know, you just need to maintain them well enough. So, I will need to try and figure out a way to reduce this slop and this movement. As far as I'm aware, as far as I can work out, there's two main reasons for it. One of the major reasons is these really tall hubs and hub carriers. Basically, if you've got a little movement at the bottom, like a pendulum effect, a little movement at the bottom, as it gets higher, it gets exaggerated because of the leverage. You know, wobble a little bit here, by the time you get to the top of your arm, it's the same thing. Just a little bit of movement up here, translate all the way up to the top, and you've got a load of movement. That's one thing. It's on both sides there, both ends. Another thing is, you know those top hats in the hub carriers? You get the top hats. You know what I'm talking about? The top hats are ever so slightly too small for the holes that they go in. So the top hats can move around in the holes just a little bit. And the screw that goes to the top hats ever so slightly too... Well, it's not the fact that the screw is too thin or too thin for the top hat moving in the top hat. What it is the top hat sits proud of the top of the hub carrier, right? So, you know, if you've got the top of the hub carrier and the top hat's sticking up a little bit, when the screw's screwed down tight on that, it's not tightening against the hub carrier itself, it's just against the top hat's moving. If you could put a washer over it and then clamp it down, that'd probably help. But these are things that I can work on once the whole car is rebuilt. I want to make sure it's built to the instructions first of all before doing anything else. Now, on to the biggest problem with this chassis. The main reason why it wasn't particularly successful, and also the reason why people don't hold it in particularly high regard. Flex. The chassis is too flexible. It doesn't have a top deck. This isn't a top deck, this is a battery bar. It's not even that secure, even when the battery's in it. It moves around a little bit. Take that out. That's what I'm talking about. There's nothing there. Just the servo arm and the belt. That's all there is. Okay, very flexible. This car was infamous for people trying their own experiments to try and stiffen it up. People who raced this car would put strips of metal or strips of carbon fibre across to try and make their own DIY top deck. Famously, then HPI team driver Atsushi Hara came up with his own designs and radically altered his Pro 3 to the point where HPI released a Pro 3 Hara edition, and tellingly it looks nothing like a Pro 3. Actually, it looks like a Pro 2 more. Although if you're going to pick a car it most closely resembles, it would be my JRXS Type R. That's what it looks like. And they're quite rare and quite valuable now. People like those cars. But the standard one, not so much. However, that is only really a problem on high grip surfaces, like racing on asphalt, very well prepared asphalt with rubber slick tyres. You need a stiffer chassis. Running on carpet with foam, you need a stiffer chassis. Initially, we're just going to be running this on slippery wooden surfaces with the very small, very thin Schumacher mini spikes. The flex will generate grip because it won't be too flexible. I think it'll be spot on. I actually think this will help this car rather than hinder it. Time will tell. One thing I've been wondering about, like I said, I'm going to keep this servo. It's not a particularly fast servo, it's a really quite a slow one, but it'll do for someone who's just starting out and he's never raced an RC car before. The way it's mounted is a bit odd. Everything about this car is odd. So you've got the two screws onto the battery, not the battery, the servo posts there. But then you're only then screwing in with two screws in there. You usually screw 4 into the battery post, so you've got the 2 posts, 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's only got 2. I'm going to check the instructions to make sure there should be 4 and not just the 2 that's used. Because the result of that is I can actually move the servo. It can move slightly. So I'm hoping if this throws, it's not just going to flex the servo and take up some of the slack of the steering, if that makes sense. I'll have to wait and see. I'll look up the instructions so you see what it says. If it says 2, then it's fine. Did HPI unknowingly pioneer the floating servo? Because all modern stuff have got floating servo. Because this is certainly floating. It's not touching the chassis, it's only floating on the 2 posts. But that wasn't a thing until much later on. Did they accidentally pioneer the floating servo mounts? So, yes, full rebuild, full new bearing kit, get it all cleaned up, running nice. Try and eliminate as much slop as possible. A few other things that need attention. The front belt, I've managed to get the tension pretty good. The back one, not so much. Too loose, way too loose. Luckily, you can actually the outside of the diff isn't round. It's like a hex, I believe. But anyway, you've got sides to it basically. I think it's a hex. And if you move it one position across, you'll actually draw the diff away slightly, and it'll tighten the belt. So that's what I'll do, assuming that I can, assuming there's enough stretch. Obviously, I'm going to have to replace the front diff. I'll service both diffs anyway, but essentially it's just the outdrive. But I'll replace the whole thing. So that'll be fine. The car should be whistling away very nicely. Obviously, one of the last things I need to do is give it a body shell. The shell that came with it is this horrific Honda Prelude. Horrific. The colour's actually not as bright as you can see in the camera because the sun's just come out. But look at the damage. Look at the damage to that paint. You can see right through it. There's paint splatters everywhere. It's just yuck. Actual yuck. It came with a spoiler. The spoiler's down on the floor. It came with a spoiler. It was only mounted on one. It was all swirling. The other bolt had not gone years ago. But I stole the free bolt and nut. Of course I'm going to steal it. So that's, yeah. New shell on the way. I won't tell what it is just in case Andy's watching this. Probably isn't, but you never know. And he's never seen the Pro 3 before, he doesn't know what it looks like. So I don't want to give away what body shell I was going to get. It's nothing particularly exciting. I keep the budget low. It's one of these, those ones you get on eBay for like 15, 16 quid, and they're fake. You got like a Mercedes AMC rather than AMG, or you get a Ford Focus where you get the Ford oval but it says Focus instead rather than Ford to avoid copyright. Something like that, but luckily this one doesn't have any writing on it, so it doesn't, because I can't buy one of those. I can't buy one of these things and looking at it and it'll say, like, rather than Nissan, it says Nassin. I can't do that. No, I can't do that. It's just but this one doesn't have the name of the manufacturer written on it, so it doesn't matter. It's close enough looking, so that'd be fine. So the bottom line, why the Pro 3? I mean, if it's so flawed and it's got too much flex, although, like we said, that might even help it here, too much slop, and possibly can fix it. I'm guessing we won't be able to fix it all. Why the Pro 3? Well, I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Pro 3. I've always liked it. I don't know why. It could be that because I like this sort of Vulcan bomber shaped chassis, or stealth bomber shaped chassis. It's really unusual. I like the oddballness of it, and honestly, I think it's the sort of underdog factor. People disregard it. It's no one turns around and says, well, some people do turn around and say it's a terrible chassis, but most people would say, oh yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but the TC3 was out at the same time, so why would you use that? Yeah, I get it, but you know, you're talking guys at a club with, you know, I'm using a 20-year-old Losis basically. Matthew's using a 20-year-old Associated. Jackie has a Tamiya TA04S, which isn't quite as old, but it's not as high spec, so it'll be about the same. Scott's using a new touring car, 3 Racing Sakura XI Sport, but it's a sort of entry club level racer as opposed to a pro level, which is what all these ones are. At the end of the day, the difference between them it's going to be negligible. It'll just be down to driving and fast motor, fast batteries. No, it would just be down to driving. So why not try something a little bit different? It's interesting because you take this body shell, everybody's going to have a different body shell. You take the body shells off and everybody's going to have a different chassis. And as long as nobody has a horrible scabby chassis, I don't think anybody does. I think everybody's cars are in good condition. So it'll be nice to see them all lined up. And they'll all sound different as well when they go down the straights. They'll have different whistles and stuff. It's just interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting this rebuilt. And I'm looking forward to getting it running. So that's exactly what I'll do. Full rebuild, new bearings, fix the damage, service the shocks, and then set it up. And then obviously try and take care of the slop, and we'll see where we're at by the end of it. Are you interested in the Pro 3? What do you think of it? Have you ever had one? What's your experience with it? Which touring car of this era would you prefer? Which one would you have if you were running a little race club? Let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves and see you soon. Bye bye.